Hi guys, welcome to another long, calming journey through the forgotten corners of the past. Tonight's story is one of dirt under your nails, aching bones, and quiet endurance. But don't worry, you won't have to lift a single bale of hay. All you have to do is listen. Don't forget to like and subscribe if these sleepy slow dives into history help you rest. Every tap helps this sleepy little channel grow. Comment below, what time are you listening to this? Is it night where you are? Or are you listening during a quiet afternoon? Let us know where you're tuning in from. It's always comforting to see how many sleepy travelers are drifting through time together from all over the world. You're about to become someone else, a medieval peasant in a tiny village at the edge of a forest. No Wi-Fi, no electricity, no rest days. Just the same sun, the same mud, the same routine. Day after day. This is not the glamorous history of kings and castles. This is the soft, unpolished underside of it all. Before we begin, take a moment to prepare your space. Dim the lights, lower the fan, or turn off anything too loud. Let the room settle into a gentle hush. You can lie down or just sit back with your eyes half closed. This video is designed to help you drift to slow the world down, 1 century at a time. Let's begin. A day in the life of a medieval peasant. Cold bread, cracked hands, and constant toil. You wake up before the light. The cottage around you is still and cold. Your breath makes soft clouds in the dim air. Outside, the frost clings to the thatch. There's no mattress, just straw, stuffed into a sagging sack beneath your shoulder blades. The blanket is rough wool, scratchy and damp at the corners. Someone coughs, probably your eldest. Everyone sleeps in one room. Mother, father, 3 children, the goat. Yes, the goat sleeps indoors tonight because a wolf was heard in the woods. Your body aches. Your back, especially. You're 38 years old, but you feel 70. There's no time to stretch. The rooster crows, and that's it. You throw on the same tunic from yesterday undyed wool, stiff with old sweat and the smell of animals. Your feet go into hardened leather shoes, barely more than stitch tied. Breakfast? A crust of yesterday's rye bread. It's dense. Sourdough. Baked last week and gone slightly stale. No butter, no eggs. You chew slowly as your wife milks the goat. The children eat quietly. Talking in the morning isn't really a thing. Everyone's saving their energy. You grab your wooden hoe and trudge out the door. The mud is always thickest just after sunrise. The frost has started to melt, but the sun's heat hasn't yet dried the ground. Each step is heavy. You work someone else's land. It's called a domain fields that belong to the local lord. You owe him days, several per week. You get no pay. Just the right to live in your little house and the hope that he won't raise your taxes again this winter. The soil is stubborn. You till rows. Pull weeds. Spread manure. Some of it is yours, some of it not. Your hands crack. Blisters never really heal, just shift. The cold wind finds its way through every seam in your tunic. Your teeth ache. You haven't seen a doctor in, well, never. There is no doctor, just the old woman with nettles and prayers. At midday, you pause. Bread again, maybe a turnip. A bit of weak ale in a clay cup. Then back to it. You help repair a fence, fetch firewood, chase a wandering chicken. Your back is bent nearly double by the time the sun starts to fall. You return home. It's smoky inside. The hearth is weak, the wood damp. Your wife is stitching a tear in someone's cloak, another side job for extra grain. The children are quiet, tired, too tired to play. Dinner is pottage. A thick soup of beans, leeks, and cabbage. No meat today. No meat most days. You chew slowly, then stop, not peace. Just sleep. The straw still pokes you. The wind creeps through the boards. Someone coughs again. And before you know it, the rooster crows once more. The same day begins, again and again and again. But some days there's variation. Rain, for example, turns work into something else entirely. You don't stop, no one does, but your boots clog with thick, clinging mud. The roof leaks. Clothes refuse to dry. The children shiver. The hearth struggles to stay lit. Rain means illness spreads easier. Colds, fevers, aches. You see it in the red eyes of the neighbors, the limp in the blacksmith's stride, the deepening lines on your wife's face. In winter, the light vanishes early. You chop wood with frozen fingers. The fields are bare and the food stores dwindle. You chew slower, not by choice, but by necessity. You barter for salt. You sweep snow from the thatch so it doesn't collapse inward. You heat stones in the hearth and place them beneath the straw to keep from freezing. And when your youngest coughs through the night, you pray not in a church, but quietly in the dark. By summer, things grow again, but it also means longer days, more sweat, more to haul and till and fix. Flies gather thick at the pigsty. The heat makes tempers short. There's no easy season, but there's rhythm, there's routine, and there is the comfort, strange though it is, in knowing what tomorrow will bring, because it always brings the same thing: a rooster crowing, a cracked bowl, a cold wind, and work. But let's stay a little longer in this world, because there are still more moments tucked between the mud and silence. Sometimes a neighbor visits. Not for tea, there is no tea, but to borrow a sickle or trade a skein of wool. You stand in the doorway, exchanging a few words, careful not to offend. Gossip is currency. A misplaced phrase can carry weight. Someone's daughter is to be married. A cow gave birth. The miller's been shorting people's grain again. Then there's the fair. It comes only once a year, maybe twice, if the weather's been kind and the harvest decent. You don't ride there. You walk early and cold. It takes 2 hours by foot through wooded paths and worn trails. When you arrive, it's not quite the magic you imagined, but it's color, noise, cloths dyed blue and red, iron goods laid out on wooden boards. A man sells wooden spoons. Another shouts about salted eels. There's music, a rough pipe, and a drum. You don't dance, but you watch. You buy nothing, but you listen. And for just a little while, you feel something close to joy. Back in the village, the church bell marks Sunday. You dress slightly cleaner. The priest talks about obedience, about toil, about eternal reward. You nod, but your knees ache from kneeling. You glance at the windows, thinking of your unfinished fence. Children play in the dirt. They chase each other around tree stumps and shout nonsense rhymes. You used to do the same. Now you just watch, quietly. On feast days, very few and far between, there might be meat. Not pork, unless it's a wedding. Maybe chicken. Someone brews stronger ale. There's music again. Laughter that feels out of place, almost too loud for a village this small. At night, sometimes, your wife hums a tune while she stitches. An old melody passed from her mother. You don't remember the words, but the sound settles you. Even as your fingers throb and your knees creak, and the straw beneath you itches dip, the music stays. This is the shape of life, not a circle, but a worn spiral. Tight, predictable, but steady. The Lord, the land, and the law, living beneath the manor's shadow. Imagine now you are no longer just a laborer with a hoe in hand. Instead, you are watching the road. From your crooked fence post, you squint at the rising dust in the distance. The Lord Steward is arriving, riding a gelding that shines with fresh brushing. His cloak is embroidered, his boots are soft. The horse's saddle costs more than your house. He does not wave. He doesn't need to. He's not your friend. He is the messenger of the manor, and the manor owns you in all ways except name. Let's walk through what this truly means. You live under manorialism, a structure built on land, labor, and control. Everything revolves around the estate, the manor house, the fields, the church, the mill. You are one of dozens, sometimes hundreds of peasants tied to this land. You cannot leave without permission. You cannot marry without permission. Even your children's future may be negotiated with the steward. This isn't slavery, but it isn't freedom either. You're a serf. That word means tied. And tied you are by dirt, duty, and debt. The laws that bind. The steward speaks in terms you do not understand. Dues, levies, obligations. He carries scrolls sealed with wax. Latin, mostly. Words for the literate. You are not literate. You owe boon work, days set aside for the Lord's special needs. Plowing, harvesting, carting hay. If you're called, you must go. You owe rent, not in coins, but in kind grain, eggs, wool. The best part of your harvest goes to the manor. What's left is yours, maybe. If you bake bread, you must use the Lord's oven. He takes a portion. If you mill grain, it must be at his mill. He takes more. If your pig grazes in the forest, you must pay for that too, panage, they call it. Every action is taxed. Every corner of your life accounted for. And if you cannot pay, well, your ox might be taken, or your daughter's marriage delayed, or your family forced to give up a plot of land. The house on the hill, the Lord lives differently. His manor rises above the trees, a 2-story structure of stone and timber. It smells of cooked meat, polished leather, and spiced wine. He is not always there. Often he travels to court, to war, to other lands he owns, but his presence is always felt. His seal, his orders, his punishments. On feast days, he may throw open the gates. Peasants line up with humble gifts, eggs, cheese, baskets of herbs. In return, they get thin soup, a nod, and the rare chance to glimpse the velvet and lace of the upstairs world. He dines on meat every day. He has dogs for hunting, not for guarding goats. He wears linen against his skin and wool over it, both dyed and stitched. His wife might manage the household, a small empire of cooks, seamstresses, scribes. Her voice never reaches the village, but her rules do. Judgment Day disputes. They are settled at the manor court, held once every few weeks. The steward sits in judgment. Sometimes the Lord presides, though rarely. You might be fined for letting your pig wander too far, for taking wood from the wrong tree, for arguing with a neighbor, for mending your fence too late in the season. You bow your head, you pay, you go. Justice is not about fairness. It is about order, and order in your world flows one way, downward. And yet, despite the weight, the peasants endure. They carve small freedoms in quiet ways. A borrowed tool, a shared loaf, an extra row planted under moonlight. They whisper songs not taught by church or lord. They pass stories down that mock the steward and praise clever tricksters who steal back what was taken. And while the manor may claim your work, your body, your land, it cannot take your dreams. Dreams of a better season, of a kinder steward, of a harvest that feeds, truly feeds for once. The Lord does not see your hands. He sees what they produce. But tonight, as you settle beside the hearth, those hands hold your child's poem. Your wife's tired fingers brush flour from her dress, and the dog thin, half-wild, loyal rests its head on your foot. The manor may rule the day, but the night is yours. Before we step out of the shadows and the sacred soil, let's rise once more into the light of daily life. Not your life this time, but theirs. Because not everyone toiled, feared, and obeyed. There were those who gave orders instead of receiving them. Those who dined while others starved. Those who ruled not with stories and charms, but with coin, decree, and privilege. Let's ascend now to the other side of the medieval world, the one of velvet sleeves, perfumed halls, and golden plates. The hollow earth below, superstitions, saints, and secrets in the soil. Your world is not just what you see. It stretches beneath your feet in soil and story and secrets whispered across generations. In the stillness of the night, by firelight and fading candle, tales rise like smoke. Tales not found in any church text or Lord's ledger. Tales buried beneath furrows and behind shrines. Tales you believe not because they are logical, but because they feel true. Local ones. A hermit who healed sheep. A martyr who wept tears of milk. A stone that bled when the devil was near. Let us descend softly into the realm of peasant belief. Structure for a life where nature can turn cruel and justice comes slowly, if at all. A world where religion, folklore, and fear twist together like ivy climbing an old chapel wall. Offerings, feathers, bits of cloth, a scrap of bread are tied to its roots. No one admits to leading them, no one moves them. Saints in the shadows. You help dig for your neighbor's son. It takes half a day. Every village has its saint. Not the ones gilded in cathedral glass, but the small ones. Some you bless with a murmured prayer, even if you never knew the person. You do not question these stories. They are not just stories. They are instruction, protection. The priest says no. But your grandmother's eyes say otherwise. Children are told not to step there. At the edge of your field, a wooden cross marks a patch of earth where someone once saw a light flicker without flame. In the woods nearby, a hollow tree bears crude carvings. They're not for God, not exactly. Or breathing that doesn't belong to anything, you know. The dead are not gone, it's stitched into your tunic. No one taught you that. You just do it? Burial is sacred, but it is also practical. Bodies are laid in shallow graves, wrapped in cloth, no coffins. The earth is hard, and digging is backbreaking. You pass the same graves on your way to church, to pasture, to the well. But you don't always walk over them. There are rules, unspoken ones. Some plots are walked around, not over. Children are told to tuck in their feet when sleeping, lest a wandering spirit mistake them for unburied bones. If someone dies suddenly, especially violently, their soul may linger. The forest watches, the priest would say so. You're not so sure. Another who cures fevers with steamed moss and whispered names. You don't go far into the woods, not alone, and not at night. There are things in the trees, so says everyone. You know the sound of owls, of foxes, of boars rooting at the edge of clearing. But sometimes there are other sounds, voices, maybe. To protect yourself, you carry a pouch, rosemary, salt, and a small iron nail. Every village has a story. A woman who vanished chasing a lost sheep. A man who came back without his mind. A deer with eyes too human. No one writes these things down, but no one forgets them either. You kneel, you cross yourself, you fear hell. Dreams, omens, and quiet signs on leaving an offering. On not speaking certain names after dark. A bird landing on your roof at dawn means news is coming. If a fire sputters in the hearth without wind, someone nearby is lying. If the cat sleeps belly up by the door, the next day will be good. You know these things the way you know when a storm is coming. In your gut, in the air, dreams carry weight, especially ones that repeat. Your neighbor dreamed of a black dog 3 nights in a row. He lost his cow that week. Coincidence? Witches, wise women, and warnings. There is a woman in the next village who speaks to bees. Are they witches? Maybe, but also maybe not. They are helpful, as long as they are not offended. You once saw a man spit outside her hut. He broke his leg the next week. No one laughed. You carry a charm made of twine and feathers. Your wife wears a ring carved from rowan wood, not for fashion, for safety. Some villagers are cautious, others curious, but everyone is watchful, because magic real or not demands respect. And so you live between worlds. You follow the church calendar, but you also believe the harvest depends not just on sun and rain, but on not angering the wrong spirit. Your world is layered, one of visible toil and invisible rules, of saints and spirits, of laws and legends. You do not question this. You simply live it, and as the wind moans softly across your fields, and the shadows stretch long behind the barn, you tell your child the same tale your grandmother told you, of the thing that walks the village path just before the frost, and the charm that keeps it away. The manor house murmurs, wealth, walls, and the weight of appearances. Not all footsteps in the medieval village are heavy with mud. Some glide across polished stone floors. Now, imagine you are not waking on straw, but on a feather-stuffed mattress inside a curtained bed. You are not a peasant, not today. Today, you are the lord, or perhaps his daughter, his steward, his second son. A person of standing, of inheritance. There is always a fire in the great hall. A servant brings it to life each morning before the sky has even shifted from black to gray. The manor house is cold, yes, but not like the hovels outside. You are still bound by duty, but of a different kind. Let's slip behind the manor gates now and spend a day where velvet chafes and nothing, not even comfort, comes free. The ritual of rising. Someone helps you dress layer after layer, linen and wool, and sometimes silk if you are highborn. Buttons are fiddly. You don't fasten them yourself. It begins not with birdsong, but with footsteps, those of your maid, who draws back the drapes of your bed and sets down a basin of water. Your seat is carved, cushioned. A servant waits behind your shoulder, just out of your eye line. Your chamber smells faintly of wax and damp wool. The fire has gone out. You sit up slowly. Downstairs, breakfast waits. Porridge, sometimes meat. Bread that is softer than what the peasants eat. Wine instead of ale. Even silence here has an audience. Matters of land and letter, you don't write them. Few lords can write fluently, but you must approve. Your clerk reads them aloud. The words are neat, careful, deliberate. There's rumor of marriage. Perhaps you must ride to court next month. As the day opens, you hear petitions. A tenant wants more time to pay rent. A boundary dispute has emerged between 2 villagers. The steward has prepared parchments for your seal. She also embroiders not simply for use, but for presentation. A fine tapestry is not just decor, it is proof of culture. You nod. Everything can be misinterpreted if not done just right. A messenger arrives from another manor, carrying news your cousin has hosted a tournament. Your mind is not on grain. It is on legacy. A household of hushed performance. Life in the manor is full of performance. Of which cousin is out of favor? Of the weather, always the weather. You walk the gardens if they are maintained. There is politeness and there is poison beneath it. The lady of the house must oversee the servants, the stores, the household books. The children are watched closely. What they wear, how they speak, who they imitate, everything is symbolic. Even your family dinners are formal. There's a roast, a thick sauce, a fine goblet lifted carefully so as not to stain the sleeve. You do not speak of the peasant who died last week from the damp. That is village business. You speak instead of a falcon that failed to return. You pass portraits of ancestors, stiff in their frames. You wonder if they were happy. Boredom draped in gold comfort brings its own kind of ache. By honor instead of hunger. You too dream of something just beyond the trees. You are never cold enough to suffer, but often too idle to feel purpose. You take up falconry. You listen to minstrels. You read if you are educated, and that is rare. You visit the chapel. Your life is managed, ordered, smooth. There are no blistered palms, but your mind runs in circles. A rhythm that pulsed quietly for centuries beneath the louder stories of kings and war. Sometimes you watch the peasants from your window, bent figures moving through mist. You think of how different you are from them, but deep down you suspect the sameness. In silence, in repetition, in small kindnesses and small cruelties that never made it into books. You too are bound by status instead of earth. A night behind stone walls. Where in the world are you drifting off from? You retire early. And if you're already drifting somewhere else entirely, that's all right too. The corridors are cold. Servants carry rushlights ahead of you. In your chamber, the fire crackles faintly. You undress with hope. Climb into bed. The curtains are drawn. You do not sleep easily. Not always. Sometimes you hear an owl. Sometimes wind. Sometimes dot, dot, nothing. And the silence presses in too close. Because even in this room, wrapped in furs and feather pillows, you still live in the Middle Ages. You still fear what tomorrow might bring. And so the day ends. Whether you were digging turnips beneath a gray sky, kneeling in a smoky chapel, whispering old stories by firelight, or sitting stiff-backed in a velvet chair, you've now walked through the long looping rhythm of medieval life. We forget sometimes that history wasn't only written with swords or signed in scrolls. Most of it was lived quietly, in muddy fields, in crowded hearth rooms. And that's where we've been tonight. Thank you for joining me on this slow, steady walk through the shadowy lanes of the past. If you're still awake, hello. You made it. Before we go, don't forget to leave a quiet little comment. What time did you start listening tonight? Your support helps this channel grow. Every like, every subscribe, every sleepy view. It all makes a difference. Now, let the present return softly. Keep the lights low. Stay still a moment longer. And as your thoughts wander toward dreams, remember, the world you woke up in today was shaped by 1,000 forgotten hands. Sleep well, and I'll see you in the next story.